Hey guys, Marshmallow Chomp here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be covering a really cool topic, and that is what happened to Occult Jr. during the timeline of Inazuma 11 Aries. So just a quick thing before we get into this, well, a couple quick notes actually. First of all, none of this is confirmed, however a lot of it is got a theory and is based on actual logic behind it. And the second thing being that if you don't know what Aries is, essentially the original Raimon team, in order to increase Japan's overall power level, each of the members were sent to different teams to help boost that team. And it's essentially a what if or an alternate version of Season 2. So teams like Occult we don't see, and that's what this video is about. This is what I think happened to those teams. So do I think they got a representative player from Raimon Jr. to help boost them, and who do I think it would be? I very much do think they got a member, and I think it would be Jim Wreath. He's the perfect fit for Occult, and I think this would be a real sort of, not redemption arc, but sort of like a training arc for him, more or less, because I feel from Raimon, he was very much just outcast and not listened to a lot. He was very quick to be just subbed out and things like that, whereas I think in Occult he finds a bit more confidence and he can talk to the players a lot more. He actually finds similarities and he can add input based on his experiences at Raimon to the Occult team. And I like I said, I think the players actually listen to him, and he has quite a few things to say that you wouldn't expect. He's actually a lot better of a tactician in terms of defending than you would once think, and he has that defending power to Occult. So do I think they get any other players? And yes, I do. I mean, most teams, only got 3 or 4 players, but we also have to take into account here that we don't see anything about Occult since their loss really early in Season 1. So this is not only Aries, but also Season 1 of sort of characters that get added to the team. So I think that Shadow, as per usual, he's trying to try out for Raimon. And in Season 2, he tries out for Raimon and he joins as a reserve, and nothing else has ever happened. But if we actually look at it, he's kind of just ignored. He has very little screen time. Mark's like, yeah, you're cool, but then they don't even take him. So I kind of feel that he just kind of gets shunned, and in this universe, he kind of just, he goes for it, but he's not really accepted onto the team or anything like that. And Talisman, the captain, would see Shadow's abilities in a tryout session. Maybe he was there trying out for himself, and thinks that he himself, Talisman, is the only competent forward. This is why a lot of the Occult forwards are benched all the time. And so sees this really strong forward with a similar theme, similar sort of story about himself, and thinks that he wants to try and scout him for his own team, being Occult. So first of all, I'd like to say Talisman, I think, would be the one to do this, as we see him in Neo National. He's really bummed about not being picked in Season 3 for going to Team Japan, even as a candidate, to the point that he trains super hard, joins Neo National, the team with the potential to take over Japan's spot, representing Japan. And so I very much see him as the one who rallies the team together and wants to increase their strength in this scenario. So that's why I see him being the one either maybe trying out for Raimon himself because he wants to be with a stronger team, or actually just considering boosting his own team's strengths. And that's why I think he finds Shadow. He also talks to Shadow about how he could be as good, if not better, forward, and could increase Ghostlock's potential. Any other members? I'll quickly go over these. I don't want to take too long. So, Cranker and Trog, I feel are sort of best friends. These are some scout characters from the early Inazuma games, but I think they do fit Occult's theme well. I don't think there's too much to them. I think they may have just joined Occult school, either in a new year, or they're just students who weren't in the football club and then joined the football club later. And I feel they're best friends with a really cool duo dynamic to them. And again, this enforces the new era of forwards for Occult. And finally, this is more of a jokey one, but I think it would make sense and be in the show and would be really cool. So Undead the Defender falls for Isla Pullins, which if you don't know, Isla Pullins has charm up, and her whole thing in a description and bio is that she acts like a tractor beam pulling in any boy and making them fall in love with her. So I feel Undead would be the unlucky, let's say, victim to this. And she joins the team by force. She's unwanted at first, but she shows her power because Talisman's sort of scared and just wants someone else to sort of reject her from the team. But Jim really sees her defensive capabilities and, sort of talks Talisman saying, maybe it's not such a bad idea. On top of this, she's very vocal on the pitch, like a captain, but in a bad sense. She's often shouting at players, scaring them, and she's not great as a team player, but her individual goalkeeping strength is insane. So how does this change the team? Jim Wraith and Pullins form a new ironclad defense for the team. It makes the team a lot stronger in the defensive area, whereas the influx of forwards like Cranker, Shadow, and Trog increase the offense to a wild and aggressive front, using moves like Breakthrough and Breakthrough 2. Maybe because we have Shadow no Breakthrough, he could teach, like Cranker and Trog the Breakthrough moves. And they become this really hyper-aggressive team, sort of like Royal Redux at the front, but then this really strong defense at the back, like Farm Jr. They become a real force to be reckoned with. However, this does not come without a weakness. And this is that the solid defense at the back and this hyper-aggressive attack at the front, they have their differences, and the communication and getting the ball between the two halves can be quite a struggle sometimes. Does anything else change about the team? I would like to say a few moves that are significant. So initially, Ghostlock has evolved. It has two forms now, one that's fast-paced and performed by the forwards. It's not as effective. It only sort of affects a few people, maybe like 3 players at a time, but it's a fast-paced one and allows them to not disrupt their flow, whereas the original form is evolved to a point where it can't be debunked like it was by Raimon, and it takes longer to work and there's more requirements involved, but if the defense can hold out long enough to pull it off, it freezes the whole enemy team for a bit, and it's really strong. I'd also like to say Cranker and Trog really get into their aggressive front thanks to Shadow and Talisman's teachings, and because they're a duo best friend dynamic, they really get together and form a duo shot, which would be double Wrath shot. They take it as their own and they make it a really cool signature move to increase the attacking potential. And finally, Pullins utilizes Utter Guts in this club when everyone's scared to receive her aggressive passes. She has really aggressive passes that they're almost like shots, and the players get really scared to receive them as they're painful to receive, to the point that she just straight up picks them up, uses Utter Guts in this club, and shoots from all the way across the pitch, adding some extra spice to the defensive line. So the team, due to the two halves, have miscommunication. They struggle to merge, creating blaring weakness. Pullins is distracted by Undead and vice versa a lot of the time, lead to failures in their first tournament. She gets subbed off for Mask when too distracted, and I think this is why they sort of fail in Ares, and this is why we don't see them in Ares. These weaknesses are quite prominent, and they're not able to get anywhere because of all these new players and dynamics. It's making it quite tricky. However, Jim Wraith breaks the struggle. He has sort of a communication and friendship with characters like Jiangxi and Talisman that he's sort of the one to later on connect the halves of the team to be a more unified front. Not only this, but his newfound power and his newfound abilities in the team make him more confident, so he himself is more of a strong player. So this is how I imagine the first sort of tournament goes and why they don't qualify. So the first match would be against Wild Jr. With their high jumps, they're a well-coordinated team, and they might evolve because of their high jumps to use things like Comet Shot, a lot of long shots, and they're able to shoot at the enemy goal, Occult's goal, should I say, before Occult can even initiate Ghost Lock. So this is why they do so well, Wild Jr., because Ghost Lock doesn't really affect them. The team's struggling with communication, and there's just so many flaws that Wild pick up on. And then next match, they go against Farm. The Farm forwards take control of the match. The forwards of Occult take control of the match, but they fail to break the defense, and this really brings, again, the two halves of the team fighting amongst themselves into play, as the forwards take control, but they're failing to break Farm's ironclad defense, and it ends just being a 1-0 match to Farm Jr., with a shine drive breaking through Isla Pullins, and this, like I said, the defensive half of the team feel that they should have more control. The forwards think they should have more control, and there's no sort of joint effort. It's all just a competition within their own team. So they then go against Brainwashing. This is quite an interesting match. Occult's arguments cause them to be unpredictable and unlike the simulations that Brainwashing train based on. So the Ghost Lock is learned and easily broken, but because of the unpredictability of the team now that they're fighting all the time, Occult managed to get a goal. So then Brainwashing get a goal. And then Neil Turner uses Fire Tornado, making it 2-0 against Occult. So this is when they start to put aside their differences, stop arguing, and focus on the match. Shadow takes matters into his own hands and uses Dark Tornado, which felt Brainwashing's keeper thinks it's just going to be like Axel's and Turner's Fire Tornado. Doesn't expect it to be too strong, and he's confident he can stop it, not knowing that Dark Tornado is a super strong move that's stronger than Fire Tornado, bringing the score to 2-1. And then finally, Trog and Cranker are put onto the pitch, and they utilize their double Wrath shot for the very first time, ending the match at 2-2. So this is their first point in the tournament, and sadly, Occult won't be able to qualify with the points they're on. However, they do have one last match versus Otaku, and they come to exact their revenge from the defeat they suffered in the first season of the show. Talisman remembers the sliding goal and the bewildered smoke shield, and so they utilize their new Ghost Lock. So in doing this, they freeze the players so they can't use Bewildered to smoke screen, and they get a super clear shot on the goal. He uses Phantom Shot and scores. This match is where the team starts to come together, and they end up winning 3-0 against Otaku, but it's too late for them to qualify. I then feel something cool would just to be looking at what would happen in like a sort of theoretical second tournament. So I think now that they're together more, they've got the power and they're evolving more. They surpassed group stages this time, and Jim pulled the team together. Problems with Undead and Pullins is still prominent, but the fighting between the two halves of the team has now ceased. They lose in the quarterfinals to Royal Academy after a very intense match, because don't forget, this is Ares Royal Academy. No Jude, but we have Nathan and Caleb on the team. And Caleb, he finds the weak point. He sort of hates on Undead, saying he's ugly, which makes Pullins mad, lose focus, and it's a 1-0 loss to Royal. However, after later finding out that Pullins wouldn't have been able to stop the shot regardless, and the fact that they were able to hold out so well against such a strong team, they're happy with their performance, and they just kind of are happy to just go on, and they're not upset with their loss. So that's sort of my thing of what I think would happen to Occult during all of Ares. Let me know if you guys think things would be different, how they'd be different, and let me know if you think this is a cool series and if you want me to carry on. I'd like to thank my friends. They don't have anything for me to shout out, but I did have a couple of friends just help me with some ideas on this, especially when it came down to just random scout characters, because I know my fair share, but the only character I could think of would be Mitch Blackston. But yeah, they helped me out with like Trog and Cranker, so big thanks to those guys. If they ever do want out shouting out, I'll put it in the comments so you guys can check out their stuff, but currently they don't have anything. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.